InnerQuest explores various pathways through which you can connect with the infinite wisdom of the universe and apply it to personal, professional, and spiritual growth. This program, featuring accomplished practitioners, educators, and authors, is provided by Infinity Foundation, an innovative center for holistic studies and research. We invite you to share this journey with us.
Hello, welcome to InnerQuest. My name is Jay Stone, your host for today, and our guest is Dr. Tom Bryant. Welcome, Dr. Bryant.
Thank you.
Let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Bryant. Dr. Bryant is a chiropractor who does Nucca, QSM3, extremity work, nutrition, and pettibone. And Dr. Bryant is going to explain all those various techniques. Dr. Bryant uses these techniques because it's what brought him back to health. Dr. Bryant treats the whole person, including the physical, chemical, and emotional. First question, Dr. Bryant, is what inspired you to become a chiropractor?
Well, I think it chose me to a certain point. I had a lot of different injuries, and so that's how I got into it.
Were you injured in sports accidents, car accidents? Were you born with some defects?
No, I was hurt mostly in sports injuries. So I've shattered my kneecap in about 5 different places in wrestling. I hurt my shoulder really bad where I couldn't even put my arm behind my back or put a belt on in baseball, and it hurt my neck and back really bad playing basketball, being undercut. So I walk with a limp by the time I was about 21 years old, and I walked with a limp for almost 2 years. And so that's how my direction started getting into this field right here that way.
And what was your first experience with the chiropractor? It must have been very good if it led you into the field. Why don't you talk a little bit about being a patient first?
Being a patient, when I started reading about it, and the philosophy made a lot of sense to me. It was about how the body heals itself, how it does a lot of different things. And I went to one person, and he did help me. He probably helped me about 25–30%, which before that nobody could help me before with all the other stuff that I did. So I thought that was great. So I kept reading more and more about it, and I went to numerous different chiropractors, probably at least 10, without much help. And then I went to one guy that actually helped me a lot after that. So I got into it read more about it, then decided to go to school and learn more.
Before the show, you mentioned that you still get adjusted by a mutual friend of ours,
Yes.
Dr. Dan Fideli.
Yes.
Can you say a little bit why it's important to follow up and see a chiropractor and continue with the adjustments?
Well, the adjustments that we do, for the most part with the Nucca and the upper cervical stuff, it helps line your body up. So I still play sports now. I do a lot of different things. I work on people all day, and it's very important to keep your body lined up the way it's supposed to be. If your hips are level, your body's level, it takes pressure off your spine, your body functions the way it's supposed to. It's more towards an angle towards wellness. That's what I'm looking for.
Okay. And can you define chiropractor for our audience?
Well, a chiropractor is what we do. What we do is kind of a specialized technique with some of the Nucca stuff, but it's actually you're lining your body up. We take x-rays, we measure things, we line the body up without twisting or cracking your neck and get your body in a more balanced thing so your spine and your nervous system can actually work right, because that's what your body heals off of that.
Okay. And you mentioned spine and nervous system. What is the connection between the spine and the nervous system?
Well, the spine is connected to your brain. Your brain connects to your spine. It controls your whole body, how it functions. There's nerves that go out to your body. They actually control how your organs function. Whenever you sense pain, whenever you feel any of that stuff, that's coming from your nervous system.
So even though someone might be having, let's say, a digestive problem or reproductive problem, it could be the result of a misalignment somewhere else?
Exactly. It can be a misalignment. Usually they did a lot of studies before where the misalignment is exactly in certain areas of the spine that attaches that organ. So usually when there's a diseased organ or a process in an organ, they trace it right back to that spine. About 96% of the time there's a problem with that area right there. But when your body's out of alignment, it puts pressure on the whole spine.
Okay. And when you say 96% of the time, where do you get that a figure like that?
They just, some people have done some studies with that, and that's how they trace, when they did autopsies and different things like that, they found diseased organ, they traced it right back to the spine. The nerve, say if you got a certain area, like if it's T6, T8, whatever in the thoracic spine, that nerve runs to an organ. When they found the disease process in that organ, they traced it right back to that spine where it intersects.
Are there any studies on like health and wellness, like looking at the spine of people who lived like into their 80s or 90s? You know, did they have healthy spines and that led to their longevity?
Generally, most of the people that I see, that if they have a healthy spine, if they're over 60 years old, they generally have proper curves in their spine the way it's supposed to be. The guy that does the Pedibond work, that's more of the rehab stuff that I do to actually put the curves back in your spine and with exercise. And we don't see a lot of people generally over in their 60, 65 years old with reverse curves in their neck or bad curves in their spine because their spine breaks down. They have a lot of different problems.
Okay. Now you mentioned the curves in the spine. Can you tell the audience a little bit more about the curves in the spine and you know, why it's important to have proper curves?
Sure. The reason that you have a proper curve in your spine, say when you look at a side view of the neck right here, it should be shaped about 43 degrees. That's the proper curve you should have. It's about the curve like a banana, if you kind of look at a banana like this. And the reason you have that proper curve is because the spine is much stronger at those angles. And a curve in your low back about 35, 36 degrees. So when I take x-rays of somebody, I actually measure that and I tell them where it is. And my ultimate goal is to get that curve back. So when a person loses your curve, they've done different studies with that. If you have a reverse curve, you can lose almost 30% of your vital capacity of your lungs to fill up, because what it does, it shuts your ribs down. So your ribs can't elevate, so the air cannot go into your ribs the way it's supposed to. That's one of the reasons why it's really critical and important to have a proper curve in your neck.
In the neck. And now the Nucca, first of all, is Nucca, is that an acronym?
It's an acronym, yes. It's for National Upper Cervical Chiropractic Association.
Okay. And so upper cervical is the neck?
Neck, yes.
And so is that the adjustment, we're adjusting the atlas part of the spine?
Yes, we adjust the atlas. What we do is actually when you take x-rays, you measure where the skull is at and you measure where the atlas, the bone that actually holds the skull in place. And they actually measure those two. And what you're doing is using it as a lever to move the skull over the body. It's a balancing center. So when the skull is centered over the body, your body will come nice and straight.
Okay. And so if the body, you mentioned exercises before. Are these exercises that someone can watch a DVD? Do you teach them yourself? Do you hold classes?
Yes, when a patient comes in, what I do is after I take an x-ray, done an exam, I measure where they're at. And like I said, the ultimate goal is to get the curve back where it's supposed to be. So what we do is specific exercises for that person to actually work on getting the curve back in the spine of the neck. And those are your spinal muscles that you work. So like when you go to the gym and you work out, you're not really working your spinal muscles as much. You're working more of your glory muscles, your biceps, a lot of different things. It doesn't actually hold your spine in place. So what we're actually doing is doing certain exercises and doing things in wedges and doing different things where they can lay on at night to actually fix the curves of your spine. That's why you see people that work out a lot, but they start getting really poor posture and hunched shoulders. You see that quite a bit. So we actually want to reverse that.
Okay. And is there any exercise that you can show our audience now? Anything simple?
Well, what we do is they wear a head weight, they wear a shoulder weight, they lay on wedges and stuff. I don't have anything exactly to show them for that, but I do lots of different things. It's all dependent on the exam and what the
So would you
x-rays
be
look like.
using like the head and shoulder weight in your office, or do the patients take it home and do
Well,
it?
they do it in my office first, and I use the pulse oximeter, which makes sure they're safe for all that kind of stuff. And then basically, once I realize they can handle all the exercises, then I give them a home care kit to do at home too. And it speeds the process up, and it's something they can do for the rest of their life to keep your spine healthy.
Okay. All right. Now, in the intro, I talked about how you work physically, chemically, and emotionally. Can you maybe explain with yourself how your initial athletic injuries affected you physically, chemically, and emotionally?
Okay, so Definitely physically, most people can understand the physical part. So I shattered my kneecap in about 5 different places. I hurt my shoulder where I couldn't move it. My neck and back, I walk with a limp. So it was constantly giving me chronic pain all the time. And so eventually I went the medical route. I was taking painkillers, you know,
and
muscle
at
relaxers.
20 years of age.
Right, all this stuff. I'm about 20, 21. So I went to numerous different doctors, and they would all give me different analogy what was wrong with me. So that was the physical part, and it definitely affected me. I gained weight. I couldn't exercise. I was always played sports, and then I was taking painkillers all the time and muscle relaxers, which I didn't like in the way I felt. And then, of course, when you're in that much pain and you're chronic pain, it emotionally affects you. So I'd wake up every day with the same problem every day. It's like your little friend waking up for and going, "Hey, I haven't gone away yet. I'm not going away," because I kept thinking it was going away, and then, you know, five or 6 years later, it still hasn't gone away. So it definitely took a toll on me.
So you had your problems for 5 or 6 years?
Yeah, at least 5 or 6 years. Even when I went to chiropractic school, I went to almost every doctor that was at chiropractic school. Supposed to have been some of the best doctors there, and they worked on me and they helped me to a certain point, but I still had some chronic pain. That's why I seeked out the different specialties that I do and went to them.
And which school? I know there's a school in Illinois, and I know there's some other schools. Chiropractic started, what, I know it was a Midwestern.
Yeah, I went to school in Palmer in Iowa, in Davenport, Iowa. It's the founding school.
Yeah.
So I liked that school the best when I went.
Yeah.
So,
did you learn about the history of chiropractic?
yes, yeah, I did. That's what I liked about it, was the history and the foundation. I went to a couple other schools, and when I went to this one school, it was a really nice school. The weather's really nice. And I asked him, why should I go to this school over that school? And he told me the weather. And I said, well, I know where I'm going now. So.
All right. And so how has your own personal experience with accidents, trauma, and recovery help you with your patients?
I think it's helped me a lot because I can relate to my patients, and it basically, I understand where they're coming from. I try to help them with everything. I know a lot of things, what stages, where they've been, where they're at, what I can do for them. You know, you can give them nutrition, you can get them on a rehab program, you can give them the whole care package to try to get them to wellness. Because most people, when they come in, their main goal is to get out of pain. That's when people think just because we're not in pain, we're not healthy, which is not true, because a lot of people have lots of different health issues without pain. So I got to relate to them as far as, yes, I can get you out of pain. That's my whole goal, is to get you out of pain first and get you functioning better. But I want to teach them the whole wellness circle and get them as healthy as possible.
Mm-hmm. And let's say someone is in relatively good health. Is there something people can do to maintain their spinal health, like the exercises you recommend?
Yeah, I mean, once I get I look at them, I do an exam, and I can take x-rays, and I do a few different scans, I can actually see, for the most part, get a good judgment on how healthy they are. I've had an example, I had a guy that was basically on a cover of Fitness magazine, but when I took x-rays of him and I measured it, he has a lot of stuff going on with his spine and issues, but he wasn't in a lot of pain. So the whole goal is to look at that and say, if you buy a car, you want to get the car to a certain level, you want the frame built, you want everything the right way, and you look at a person that way too, and say your curve in your neck should be here, your curve in your low back should be here, it should function at these degrees and these angles, and that's what you want to get at that. And then you got to feed it good nutrition.
Okay. Let's see. And what types of patients benefit most from your treatments?
I think anybody can benefit for the most part. I've adjusted kids that are 3 years old to patients that are in their 90s. And they all want the same thing. They want to be healthy for the most part. They want to feel better. They want to be healthy. It doesn't matter how old they are.
Well, there's a lot of, well, I've been doing yoga for 30 years, and it's become quite popular.
Right.
What do you think about yoga for maintaining health? Yoga, Pilates?
I think yoga is great. It's great for your body. It does a lot of breathing. It does a lot of movement of the spine. Pilates is really good. It strengthens some of the muscles around the spine. It does all that stuff. But the biggest thing, what I'm looking at doing, is actually if I can change your curves of your spine, you're going to be able to do those things much, much better, and you're going to be a lot healthier. Because you can do yoga for 20, 30 years. I've just a lot of people with yoga that did headstands, have been doing it for a long time, and they have a lot of arthritis in their spine. They got a bad curve in their neck, and then they start getting issues. It's because their spine's breaking down. So the main goal is to work on fixing the real cause.
Now, arthritis is a big problem in this country. What are some of the early symptoms or warnings of arthritis?
Well, one of the osteoarthritis is one of the things that I look at. Osteo means bone, arthro means joint, and itis of that area. So basically, when you take an x-ray of somebody, you can actually see what's going on with their spine. You can see some of the arthritis. And basically, one of the ways you'll see it is, say, if I have two pillars stacked on top of each other, right, and they're perfectly level like this. And so if you change the angle of the pillar and you change the weight on top of that like that, it's going to put a lot more pressure on one side or the other. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So what happens, your body will say, hey, your spine's made out of negative and positive charges for the most part. So what it does, it'll put more negative charges on that area. Mm-hmm. So what happens, your body will say, hey, we need to stabilize that area because it's starting to break down. There's too much pressure. It's not where it's supposed to be. So your body will start adding calcium in that area, and it starts growing. So that's when people start getting spurs. The disc will start getting smashed. And then if it puts pressure on your delicate nerves, then people will start to feel it. But they might not feel it for 20 or 30 years. And
then you can still intervene and help someone if it's been built up for over 30 years?
Yeah, you can still help them. The whole goal is you got to get movement in the area, get the function right, and then you actually work on getting the curves back where they belong. Because there's certain angles of the spine where the body's supposed to be, and that's exactly where it's most stable.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And what factors do you look for in new patients?
And most new patients, well, like I said, when they come to see me, they have some kind of pain issue, or they have some kind of nutrition deficit, something that they want to change, or they want to lose weight, or they want to do something.
And pain issues, is it you seeing a lot of neck pain, shoulder pain?
I get a lot of neck pain. I get a lot of shoulder pain because I specialize in extremities, and I get even knee pain, plantar fasciitis, elbow, wrist, a lot of carpal tunnel. I adjust the hands for all that stuff. But most people are referred in because of pain, because we're in a pain society. But what I'd like to do, like I said, is to convert them over eventually, that they understand that they can be, reach wellness. It's not just about not feeling, being out of pain.
Well, you mentioned carpal tunnel, and somebody I know recently had surgery for that. Do you feel chiropractic is a possible means to avoid surgery?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like they wanted to do surgery on my shoulder. They did surgery on my low back, and I didn't have it. There's been numerous people that could have went the surgery route, but they didn't need to. Like especially with carpal tunnel. A lot of times, the guy that I learned the extremity stuff, he invented the whole technique. He's very famous specifically for carpal tunnel.
You want to drop his name?
Dr. Malley, Dr. Mitch Malley.
Is he still alive?
Yeah, he's still alive. He's in Iowa. He teaches. He taught he's the sports guru guy. So he taught a lot of people that works on professional sports teams.
Yeah, and then I know in Chicago there's a store called Relax the Back, and there's a lot of different types of chairs, like office chairs and lounge chairs specifically designed for the back. How do you feel about those kind of products?
I don't know. I'd have to look at certain products and see what it is, and not everybody has a certain curve for whatever they need. So a lot of those products are basically made for, say, most people lose some of the curve in their low back here, so they'll put a lift right in that area, which is generally pretty good for most of the population. So when they sit, it actually puts a little curve, like some of your cars that you drive, really nice cars, they'll put those.
They call them lumbar supports.
They'll put the lumbar support. It actually pushes some of that lumbar back.
Okay. Now, some chiropractors I know, they're big on having shoes. They feel like shoes make a difference. Some shoes can cause harm, like high heels for women.
Right.
And do you ever give advice on shoes?
Generally, I tell them if they're wearing high heels, that's not the best thing for them to wear. But a lot of times what I do is I adjust their feet, adjust their ankles, get the movement in the ankles and get the movement where it's supposed to be. And then a lot of times people can wear just about what they want.
And so is adjusting the feet, is that part of your extremity work?
Yes. Yeah, it's like a lot of runners, a lot of plantar fasciitis, a lot of different, they come in with foot pain and plantar fasciitis.
And can you explain to our audience who may not know what plantar fasciitis is?
Generally, a lot of runners get, a lot of people different run it. It's basically when you look at an arch of a foot, say you like your heel bone, there's the tendon attaches and attaches here. And so this tendon, this fascia, there's a fascia that goes over the muscle, gets really tight and tense, and it causes intense pain with people. And it's generally because your heel is locked up in the wrong position and another bone is locked up in the wrong position, so your foot does not flex the way it's supposed to, so you're kind of like walking on stilts. So then eventually it breaks down, and that's what it does. Your body gives off pain and says, hey, stop doing this.
And does that pain radiate anywhere?
It will radiate, usually it's really strong in the middle of the foot and goes out to the toes, or it might go up to the heel a little bit. And sometimes they'll get shin splints too, because that's what's caused. Shin splints is caused from a foot problem too.
And do you ever refer any of your patients out to like a podiatrist, you know, for inserts and things like that?
Generally, I refer them out if they got like bunions or they got different neuromas or different things. I have them take a look at it for them. And sometimes the podiatrist, a lot of them will do like foot things for them, like levers. Now,
you mentioned you work with your clients on a chemical level. Do you ever send your clients for blood tests?
Generally, no. I don't do a lot of blood testing. I do a lot of different muscle testing that I do for nutritional stuff like that. And then if they do, I think they need a blood test, I'll send them out to get a blood test somewhere else. But I don't do it in the office or nothing, no.
All right. So tell our audience what Nucca is.
Nucca is it's called National Upper Cervical Chiropractic Association, but it's an upper cervical adjustment. It's very light touch, and it's based off math and physics.
And when you say a light touch, can you kind of demonstrate how much?
You will feel like very little pressure on your neck at all when you lay on your side. There's another technique that I'm doing. It's called the QSM3, and it's been developed. Basically, it's like Nucca. It's very similar to Nucca too, and you barely feel it. You don't feel hardly anything with it.
And would you be adjusting the atlas with that as well?
You adjust the atlas, yes, with it. It's very, very similar. They're very molded, but I think it's a little more advanced. I like it better.
Okay. And did you learn Nucca and QSM3?
Yes.
I mean, when you were in chiropractic.
When I was in school, I was studying all the Nucca and learned all that. And then when I'm out of school, I've been studying more of the QSM3 because it's very similar. There's a fellow named Dr. Russell Friedman in Atlanta, and he's developed it, and he's been doing Nucca too for a really long time. So he developed this other technique. It's very exciting.
And what does, I assume QSM3 is an acronym. What does that stand for?
It's quantum spinal mechanics to the third part. This guy's he's all mechanical. So that's him.
Okay.
He named it that.
Okay. And then can you tell our audience a little bit more about Dr. Malley's extremity work?
Dr. Malley extremity work. When I was in school in Iowa, he taught this stuff outside of school. So he was I looked up who was the best person in extremities or sports injuries, because I had a plantar fasciitis. I had my shoulder. I couldn't even put a belt on behind my back. It's just about as far as I could lift my arm. So when I was in school, I said, you know, if you guys can't help me, who should I go see? And that's who they said you should go see him.
Now, you mentioned you were in school, you had plantar fasciitis. Is that common for a young person to get it, or is it usually someone who's older?
I think for a wrestler it was.
Okay.
So I got it. And I've had, you know, plantar fasciitis, elbow. I've had just about every injury under the sun. I think that's why I said it chose me. I didn't choose it. And,
well, there's I don't know if you ever heard this saying in the Course of Miracles, you teach what you have to learn.
Right, I tried to learn it all.
Because right, and now you're teaching other people. Did you wrestle in college as well?
No, I shattered my kneecap in high school right before I went to state. So it shattered in like 5 places, so my wrestling career was over after that. So.
Was it a wrestling injury?
Yeah.
Sorry to hear that.
It wasn't the WWF, it was the other kind of wrestling.
All right, and you also do Pettibone, so tell us what Pettibone is and what its purpose and how it helps people.
Well, his name is Dr. Burl Pettibone, and he developed it basically since the 70s. And he has been doing, his nickname is the father of biomechanics. So he developed this whole basically rehab or a whole program to actually work on getting the curves back in your spine. So he is, they've done more peer-reviewed journals and studies with his technique than anything. So basically, whenever I got adjusted Nucca, I was feeling a lot better. I got my extremities adjusted, I felt a lot better, but I still had issues. And so I said, how can I get this fixed? Because when I first started, my curve was about 18 degrees in my neck.
And what it should have been?
43. And I've been going to school for, I've been getting adjusted for 12, 14 years. And my curve still wasn't where it was supposed to be.
Where's your curve now?
It's at 40 now.
Okay.
So sometimes you can't get it to 43. It's just, last time I checked, it was 40 degrees. So,
And you have to get an X-ray to do that?
yeah,
and,
you take
an X-ray, and well, then you use, what do you use to?
Well, I just measure. I just use just mathematical, just measuring. I measure angles, and I tell you exactly where it's at. It's nothing, it's just measurements. That's it. So.
Yeah. So any kids watching, there's a use.
You can use math, definitely.
Yeah.
I didn't think I was going to use math like that, but I definitely can use it.
All right. Now, you mentioned you also do nutritional advice.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think is the most important nutritional advice that you give?
Well, you can tell them basically, if you're just going to look at a basic person, try to eat really clean for the most part, and then you got to explain to them what you think eating clean is.
Yeah,
for the
I
most
was
part.
going to follow up with that question.
You can basically have them tell you exactly what they eat, and then you can go through that and kind of explain to them what they're eating and what it is and what's going on with them, and make sure they drink plenty of water. Cut out sugar for the most part if they can.
Well, and you said
up.
plenty of water. Is it possible to drink too much water, or how do you know if you're drinking the right amount?
Well, most people are dehydrated, so a high percentage of people are dehydrated.
Do you test for that in your office?
No, I don't do a dehydration test, but when I muscle test people, I know what stuff they need for the most part, and then I give them, like a lot of people, I'll tell them to drink a quart of water for every 50 pounds they weigh, if they're dehydrated.
So 150 persons, 3 quarts a day.
Yeah, they'll drink some. You got to drink plenty of water. Most people are not going to drink that much, I realize, but if they try, they're going to drink a lot more water than what they do. Now we're talking about water, it's making me thirsty.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Bryant, we have less than a minute.
Okay.
So, any final words of wisdom?
I love what I do, and I like to bring people back to wellness, is for the most part, and I try to integrate it with the whole body and do everything that you need to do to fix it, to get it to that point, because that's what I had to do, and I figure if I can help me, I can help just about anybody, and that's what I like doing.
Well, one thing is clear, that you have a lot of passion for chiropractic and you're helping people, and you're very knowledgeable, and you strike me as someone who's just going to keep learning and learning and learning and getting better, because you want to be the best not only for yourself but for, more importantly, your patients. Well, that's it for the show. Thank you, Dr. Tom.
Thank you.
For more information about Dr. Tom Bryant, Infinity Foundation, InnerQuest, stay tuned to the credits at the end. Until next time, wish you good health, good spirits, good fortune, and a aligned spine.
Thank you.
For more information about this show, our guests, Infinity Foundation, or any of our other programs, please visit our website, infinityfoundation.org, or call us at 847-831-8828.